Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we are looking at the OCG because one of the weirdest things has happened in the OCG. There was a tournament that I wanted to show you guys with 3,000 participants. 3,000 participants, okay? One of the biggest in Osaka, Japan, and prior to this tournament, the metagame looked like this. Tier 0, Tier Element, with Kashtira and Labyrinth and some other decks, being in there as well. But as you can see, there wasn't actually a whole lot of other decks. Splight Gishki was being tested. We can see there's like Runic, Branded, Bestial stuff, a bunch of different Bestial types because Bestial does really well against the Tier Element stuff. The Kashtira, obviously, and then obviously, things like Flunder, another Tier Element build, more Kashtira, Tri-Brigade, stuff like that. This random Megalith that topped somehow. I don't know how, but good on you. So yeah, this is the metagame. And this is the top 16 for the tournament. That's right. It's Flunder, Labyrinth, Kashtira Tier Element, okay, Kaiju Luna, Watt Kashtira, Kashtira Tier Element, Kashtira Tier Element, Kashtira Runic, Ishizu Kashtira Tier Element, Kashtira Tier Element, Ishizu Kashtira Tier Element, Dinomorphia Kashtira, and another Flunder. Which is interesting. Now, it does sound like I am saying that there is a lot of Kashtira there. There's a lot of Tier Element. Those are decks that we're expecting to see. But it's more so these top 4, as well as whatever the frick this is, that really make things very interesting. So I'm going to go and look at the deck list real quick. Alright, so the deck list for the winning deck in this tournament was this Flunder deck. Now, if you don't know what Flunder is aiming to do, it's a little bit different from what we normally do with just like set on the barrier statue, especially against Tier Elements that has so many different lines of play that they can go for. So obviously going for, or so many different lines of play that they can go for that specifically stop this card in particular. So yeah, it's less reliant on this. However, you're still going to use it, obviously, and that's why there's 2 of them. But we can see that there's no Apex Avian. Now, one major thing to note. Is this a single elimination? No side deck! Best of ones! So, that does help to understand why things like Flunder and Labyrinth did end up winning, but it's still very interesting to look at. And we can see here that, the Dimension Shifters and stuff like that are pretty interesting. And we have Swords of Revealing, or Concealing Light, which, if you don't know what this card does, it's basically Swords of Revealing Light, except the opposite. So instead of flipping cards face up, it flips them face down. So all of your opponent's cards, you activate this, all of them get flipped face down, and they can't change their battle position. Awesome. Fantastic effect, especially for Flunder. Do you want to know why? Because Flunder has really crap attack. And when you put things into face down defense position, they're easier to walk over. So there you go. Also, they don't get to activate their effects, which is very nice. It's just like a board wipe, similar to the Book of Moon, except not quick effect, but more importantly, you could just kind of slap it down and deal with it a whole board. So yeah, it kind of has to be responded to, which is really cool. Yeah, all in all, this is just like a really, really solid deck overall. You can see Pot of Prosperities, the Dualities, the Extravs, just everything all together, designed to get your game plan going. And it's very clean. But overall, the game plan is basically just rely on this card, recycle it, utilize that to set up multiple barrier statues. So they deal with the first one, and then you slap down a second one, and you go, ah-ha-ha, and then you laugh at your opponent. That's basically the idea. And then here we have Labyrinth. Look at all these trap cards. In a best of one format, are we surprised that a deck that can main deck Skill Drain, Goes and Match, and Evenly Matched, and Dimensional Barrier ended up topping. No, but it is very funny because they are literally only playing 6 monsters in their entire deck. The rest, we have 5 spells, 6 monsters, and 29 traps. Also, some of these traps are absolutely hilarious. And most notably this one, which I can't remember the name of, but Dear Lanta, these cards are hilarious. Yeah, came in second. Fantastic. Love to see it. I don't think a single one of these cards ever came up. Not once. You can't tell me that a single one of those came up. Why? Because what is in this deck? That's all. Anyway, moving on. Next up, we have Kashtira Tearlament. This is expected. This is basically the deck to beat, so we are not too surprised. However, in a 3,000-person tournament, the fact that this didn't win is also pretty cool. So, yeah, pretty nice overall. We do get to see one thing that is notable in this build versus, or in the OCG way of thinking versus the TCG way of thinking, and they are playing 2 Kitkalos. Now, this matters because Kitkalos is like the only target that you can really go for as like Chain Link 1. So if you don't have a way to fusion summon, like for example, your Kitkalos isn't summoned or like hasn't been shuffled back, so you can't like utilize it for something else, there isn't really a good way to go into some of the other fusions. So having the second one allows you to go for that more easily. So in terms of the TCG going for more of the high roll strat and just like recycling the resource more often, OCG tends to play the second copy, even though it does mean that they're playing, you know, potentially one other tech card that they're missing. Like for example here, there's no Mud Dragon. They're just hard making Dweller. So there's that. Just an interesting thing. And then we have probably the funniest thing that I have ever seen in my entire life. Watch Kashtira getting top 8. That's right. What? Kashtira. Why is this a thing? What even is this? I wish I could explain to you what this is planning to do, but I don't know. I guess the idea is just like use going second cards like Raigeki, Lightning Storm, and the like. Why is Lightning Storm semi-limited? What? When did that happen? Anyway, use going second cards like these in order to break boards or deal with them, and then just slap down something like a Watt Giraffe, which says if it deals damage via a direct attack, which it can attack directly, your opponent can no longer activate cards for the rest of this turn, and then proceeding to do your plays. But also, like, how? Tearlament can just, like, do stuff. As soon as you touch their board, as soon as you do anything, I guess it's just, like, slap down this guy, attack directly, and then proceed to combo off, and just kind of, like, laugh at your opponent as they can't activate anything. But, yeah, pretty interesting. Somehow this happened, and it's very funny. Can't wait to play this. And then we have another Kashtira Tearlament. Pretty standard deck lists overall. I think they're definitely more suited to the best of ones. As we can see, they're playing triple Soliek, which is kind of weird, but it's you know, more suited to the best of one formats and the like. We have a Kashtira build, which is the pure Kashtira, which means they're actually playing this card instead of just these two. Yeah, pretty standard overall. Lots of things like evenly matched. Lots of going second cards, main decking things like the Harpy's Feather Duster. I think most of these decks have been main decking Harpies, or like at least some way to out problematic back row. But also, not a lot of them have actually been main decking these big blowouts. So, you know, Labyrinth at the top. Now, granted, when we look back, we do see that Labyrinth was probably the most... was probably the third best deck going into this metagame, so it's not surprising that it did so well, but also it's still surprising. We have another Kashtira Tearlament. We have Runic. Guess what? There's not a single monster in this deck. I mean, obviously there's the extra deck, but like, no main deck monsters. They're also playing Drowning, and of course they're playing Skill Drain, because why would you not in a best of one format? I really hope that this showcased how incredibly stupid Skill Drain is, and that OCG / Master Duel ban list people realize that, skill drain is a problem in best of one formats and should probably be banned, not just limited. Because it is a problematic, insulting card. Also, I hate this card. This card should be banned. Don't know why it exists. It literally says +3. Why? Why? Demise can die. Thank you. Anyway, another Ishizu Kashtira Tier Element. Most people have dropped the Ishizu cards because they're just not really worth it since you could just play the Kashtira stuff now. So kind of interesting to see. They're playing only 6 of the Ishizu cards, and then the rest are just pretty standard numbers for the Ishizu Kashtira stuff. But most notably, they're playing like significantly less of the actual tier element cards, as well as the Kashtira ones. Most notably, like the traps and such. So there's that. Another Kashtira tier element, this time with I don't know. Winter Cherries make sense. Why is Ghost Mourner here? What are you doing? Anyway. Another Ishizu, Dinomorphia. Dinomorphia Kashtira. Look at this. Crazy. Dinomorphia. There's like 2 Dinomorphia cards in this. This is very funny. This is definitely more Kashtira, but Kashtira is very good against tier element, so it's expected. But yeah, it was just kind of funny to see how well trap cards did in this event, because trap cards are inherently very good if you can't really prepare for them, right? Right? And then, yeah, that's basically it. Overall, I just found this to be one of the most interesting results in terms of tournaments that have been held. It being best of ones means that not much really changes in terms of the meta, but it is definitely very interesting to see, and especially since it was such a large turnout, 3,000 participant tournament. That is insane. The YCS Pasadena, which is one of the bigger ones that we've had in recent memory, was 1,700, I think 1,800 actually, and so this is basically twice that size. Pretty interesting. Also, the OCG just kind of does stuff randomly, just weird things. They do weird tournaments, and I really like that. I like that they're experimenting with formats. I would love to see a best of 5 with like an invitational. That would be super cool. Please, Konami, give me a best of 5 invitational with like some of the best players, and just determine like, does game 4 and 5 change the meta or change how people will play? Because like the side deck is massively important, as we see here. Literally, like the 2 top decks were not the best deck, the tier 0 deck. So obviously, side deck matters. So I'd love to see more games with specifically the side deck in mind. I tried to host a tournament, didn't work out. Anyway, not important. Just really cool. And I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy this episode. If you did, a like is very much so appreciated. And if you want to check out more content like this, as well as more Yu-Gi-Oh!, then just be sure to subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and hope you enjoy the content.